So I would submit to you that the Bible makes incredible sense of the world that we live in, of the world period, in all persons, in all times, and in all places. And I'd also say that one of the reasons people disregard what I've just proposed is, quite frankly, one, because of arrogance, and then secondly, because of ignorance. And I think the arrogance comes from a position where right off the bat they reject the idea that there is a God and that God can reveal himself to man. And what should be the posture of mankind to the revelation of God? Well, certainly it's one where we can ask questions and poke and prod and think a little bit, but it should be one of humility and certainly one of faith. And apart from humility and faith, I think you'll know nothing at all about God. And as to the arrogance, or as to the ignorance, people really haven't read the Bible cover to cover and thought about it. Some have, and some read it only to tear it down. Again, apart from humility and faith, you'll know nothing of God. But with that humility and faith, I will tell you that I wholeheartedly subscribe to this. The Bible makes incredible sense of our day and the world we live in. I learned at a young age about my great-grandfather. There was a picture in my grandmother's house of my great-grandfather feeding two pet bears. He had food in each hand, and these two young bears were on their hind legs eating out of each of his hands. And he was leaning on this back fence kind of like he ruled the world. Well, he was a hunter. He knew the land, loved wildlife. I later learned in reading about my family that my great-grandfather, after whom I was named, killed a bear with a knife. Now that was pretty cool. He took a sickle and he had turned it into a blade and put a handle on it. Not a long handle, but like a dagger handle. He had about 19 or more hunting dogs, if I remember the story correctly. And these dogs had cornered a bear against a tree. And he just had the idea, you know what? I've been hunting a long time, but I've never killed a bear with a knife. And so he takes that sickle that he put a handle on, and he waits until the dogs had stirred the bear to the point that he comes up on his hind legs and raises his paw. He sneaks around the tree and he sinks the blade right under the risen arm of the bear. And that bear turned around, took one swipe at my great-grandfather, who had many layers on. I guess it was winter. The claws went through most of the layers of his chest, knocked him back, I think knocked the wind out of him, scared the daylights out of him. That bear got one shot at him and then bled out and died. Now, I heard that story and I went, my great-grandfather killed a bear with a knife. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I've got a little courage in me. And my story all of a sudden was linked to a greater knowledge of where I came from. The Bible tells the story of humanity having been made in the image of God. That's what's remarkable about you. You need to read that. You need to understand mankind made in the image of God. It fills the void of what theologians like John Calvin would talk about, that man has like a seed of religion in him. You know that there's something about mankind that's unique out of all the creatures in the world. Well, that's what it is. You're more than a bear hunter with a knife. You're a human being made in the image of God. And that's going to change the way you think about the world. And secondly, the Bible's going to tell you what happened, what went wrong. Makes me wonder how you'd finish this sentence. People today are what? What would you say? Crazy? Kind. Remarkable. Evil. The fall of mankind, I think, would answer how you fill in that blank. It explains what's gone wrong. I will say my heart breaks for the amount of suffering around the world today, the amount of abuse, The fall tells you what happened. Mankind, which was to have dominion over the earth, exchanged that dominion rightly under the rule and reign of God and started ruling over each other. I mean, the first slaughters in the scriptures. God tells you that the innocent blood of Abel cried out from the ground. That resonates with people today who understand suffering and oppression, especially those who have suffered violence. The Bible also not only tells you your origin and its glory and its beauty, not only tells you what has happened to mankind. We've been separated from God, from one another, and there's a really funky relationship between man and creation now. It gives you hope, and that's what the world's starving for. They're looking for it all over the place. They're just putting their hope in the wrong place. Usually there's an object to hope. What's that object for you? Is it a new form of government? Is it a new boyfriend or girlfriend? Is it a second try, third try, fourth try at marriage? Is it experimenting with who you are as a male, feeling like, well, maybe I'm a female? Is it a new philosophy that'll help you change the way you view the world? Well, the object of Christian hope is a new man. And that doesn't just mean male. It's a new humanity, restored and redeemed in the person and work of Jesus Christ. It makes so much sense. The object of our hope is a person. And that hope's been realized because He's come. Jesus Christ has changed everything. And then lastly, there's an eternal glory that awaits. And that's what we long for. I drove down the road the other day, and right next to a fairly new public high school is a row of oak trees. And you would think that schools would be a place where truth, beauty, and goodness flourish together. It's like three streams entering into one river, you know? Well, this row of oaks in the front of the school, I guess they hired the county to come out, and they basically mowed down all the branches that were coming into the road. And said this tree is absolutely mangled. Right in front of the schools, the thing you see on the way, you know, the trees line the road frontage to the school. It looks horrible. Everything about it, you look at it, you're like, my goodness, you know, my kids would go there? Or I thought this was a place of learning. Did anyone teach them about how trees grow? How disease will enter a fractured limb? I mean, they're mangled and mutilated, and I don't know that anyone even sees it or cares. Like, you look around the world and you can go, my goodness, what are we doing to the place? Something's, we've lost the harmony. Something's out of place. Everybody's going to try to work that through in their head. I'm telling you that the Bible makes incredible sense of what's happening and has happened and will happen in the world. Have you ever noticed how totalitarian governments see Christians as a threat? You know why that is? You can't control them. They have a hope that you can't take away. Think about that for a minute. We understand what's gone wrong with the world, and it began with us. You have to look no farther than yourself. Start in the mirror. But we actually have a hope, and that hope's changed the world. It's changed my life and is changing my life. And we have a glory that awaits. That gives us a freedom to love at great cost. And by way of the work of this person, Jesus Christ, it gives us a power in the grace and presence of the Holy Spirit to speak truthfully, and to love deeply. I actually think the Bible makes incredible sense of the world. I'd invite you to read it. I invite you to learn to live in light of it. Reach out to me if I can be of help to you there. Thanks for watching.